I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into The Locker Room. Thank you for joining me today. If you are new, welcome into the program. If you're returning, welcome back, you Locker Room faithful. Before we get started, make sure you're following The Locker Room podcast on our social media. TLR Podcast 615. That is TLR Podcast 615. Why, you ask? Because we have exclusive content, exclusive videos, exclusive short films, giveaways. Everything you need is on our social media, so follow us there and stay up to date with everything The Locker Room has going on. This episode is brought to you by FNX Fitness. Go to fnxfit.com. That is fnxfit.com for all of your gym needs. From clothing to supplements, everything you need to have a better gym experience, a healthier gym experience, and a cheaper gym experience. FNX Fitness gives you rock bottom prices with high valued items. Go to fnxfit.com and use your promo code TLRHOST. That is TLRHOST, all capitals, and I will give you 15% off your first purchase. So join the family today. Okay, so I'm opening up this podcast with my NFL updated rankings. The only reason is because the NFL is freaking bonkers. I love the NFL for the simple fact that the NFL is finally getting teams that are interesting across the entire NFL. For a while, it used to be these four teams are good, everybody else sucked. Now you have so many interesting teams. The New Orleans Saints, the Tennessee Titans, the Cardinals, the Bucks, the Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Rams, and I could seriously name 3 or 4 more. And I say all of that to say this, is that we had a hell of a weekend with the NFL. And my updated power rankings are probably going to shock a lot of people. So let's dive into it because I want to spend a little time on these. At number 1, I think consecutively for the second straight week, the Arizona Cardinals. They're just a deep football team. I mean, across the board, offensively and defensively, they are a deep football team. They're without Kyler Murray, no problem. We can fill that void and still win the game with a pretty convincing margin. No more J.J. Watt, don't worry. Our defense is still going to average 9 sacks, almost 3 sacks, 2 sacks a game, whatever it is. I literally blanked out on the numbers. But this team is stacked across the board. Right now, Kyler Murray, if Derrick Henry wasn't injured, Derrick Henry would be my MVP. But right now, Kyler Murray is my MVP. I don't know how we're talking about Josh Allen. What he did on Sunday, for me, automatically eliminates him from the MVP discussion. Now, I know Kyler Murray missed 1 game, but big deal. He's still putting up video game-like numbers, and his little stubby legs are getting that team to victories. The Arizona Cardinals are stacked from top to bottom, and here's something that I think we don't point out enough. Cliff Kingsbury is an incredible coach. Why? Because he is quarterback friendly. I think coaches, especially now that are quarterback friendly in the NFL, tend to be more successful. Why? Because the NFL is being more and more quarterback driven. It's like it would be like adding a LeBron James, Kevin Durant to your team. You're just adding that franchise piece that can now run that entire side of the football, and they make average to decent wide receivers look great because a good quarterback can do so. Look at what Justin Herbert's success is in Los Angeles now that he has a coach that is quarterback-minded. Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur is a very quarterback-minded coach. Now, we already know what Aaron Rodgers is, but still. So Cliff Kingsbury does an incredible job getting Kyler Murray into the right positions, and then Kyler Murray's just a baller, man. I did not believe in Kyler Murray for a long time. In fact, I thought Kyler Murray was very overrated and that Kyler Murray wasn't going to be very successful because if I look at Baker Mayfield up in Browntown, I'm not very impressed with him, and I thought we were going to get just a shorter, version of that in Arizona, but I was wrong so far. So far, he has proven me wrong and proven a lot of people wrong, a lot of very well-known analysts wrong. And I'm man enough to admit that. The Arizona Cardinals, they have a running game with James Conner, Chris Edmonds. They've got a quarterback in Kyler Murray, a franchise guy. They've got a defense, Chandler, Budda Baker. They've got guys. And they're a deep, deep team, and they are well coached. They're my number one team. My number two team is the Tennessee Titans. Now, this might be a little controversial. Good grief. Controversial. Listen, guys, I got a tattoo today, so I'm pretty amped up, pretty jazzed up. For those of you who don't follow me on my social media, TLR Podcast 615, you will not know what it is, so I will describe it to you. It is Baby Groot with floral arrangements around him and just awesome watercolor. It's dope, okay? That's all I got to tell you is that it's dope. So if you want to see it, go to TLR Podcast 615. But no, I'm pretty jazzed up, so it's kind of hard for me to stay on track here while I'm trying to talk. But the Tennessee Titans have eclipsed the Buccaneers for now. The Tennessee Titans went on one of the most impressive runs I've can think of, have seen in recent memory. They said Patrick Mahomes, MVP, back-to-back Super Bowls. And he lost the second one, but still made it. No problem. They said, give me the Colts, division rival. Always tough against the Tennessee Titans and a team that had won 3 straight and was on kind of a hot streak. No problem. They said, give me the Buffalo Bills. It said, Josh, who? They said, all right, Derrick Henry's down. And every Titans fan, including myself, all said, well, this was a fun run while it lasted. Every Titans fan burnt down Nissan Stadium in their brains and decided to sell all their season tickets and be done for the year. And then the Titans say, hey, we gonna get Adrian Peterson. Then the Titans say, hey, we're going to get some guy named Dante Foreman that used to play for the Texans that for some reason is decent. They say, hey, Julio's going to be back in the lineup and be healthy. They say, hey, we still got A.J. Brown. We still got Ryan Tannehill. And they say, hey, we going to go to Los Angeles and take down the Rams. The Rams were my preseason Super Bowl favorite, and with the addition of Von Miller, they're still my Super Bowl favorite. But don't look now, the Tennessee Titans are number one in the AFC. Don't look now, the Tennessee Titans are on a roll, and it starts with defense. They're finally getting pressure. I have screamed this to the top of my lungs every season. If the Titans could ever get any kind of defensive pressure, then they wouldn't have to rely on their okay cornerbacks and rely so heavily on Kevin Byard to have to dig them out of every situation. If you have a weak point with the Titans, it would be their cornerback position. Then you need to mask that with good defensive front pressure. Kevin Byard, the big bright spot. Monty Hooker's still doing a pretty good job. Molden's doing a great job. I mean, he has slowly become the number one guy there. Jack Rabbit Jenkins has done a pretty good job. Like, they've got some pieces now. But for those pieces to be as successful as they can be, you need defensive pressure. Look at Los Angeles. Aaron Donald gets great defensive pressure. Michael Brockers gets great defensive pressure. Now you have Jalen Ramsey one-on-one on an island, and he's basically getting the sloppy seconds because whoever is in the quarterback position on the other side is running for their lives at all times. You need that defensive pressure, and Jeffrey Simmons has emerged as arguably a top 3 defensive lineman in the NFL right now. He might be right now, honestly, he might be number 2 for me. No one's going to surpass Aaron Donald. He might be the greatest of all time, right up there with Lawrence. But, I mean, Simmons is a freaking monster. 3 sacks on Sunday, I think, against a pretty decent Andrew Whitworth in that offensive line is no scrubs. Are no scrubs, not is no scrubs. I mean, I just said that so ghetto. Like, is no scrubs, son. But you get what I'm saying. Like, that's a decent offensive line, a good offensive line in the NFL. And Jeffrey Simmons made them look like fools. And once that pressure was finally there, and we're finally able to get pressure to the quarterback, then our defense looks top 10 in the NFL. I say go Bears, but also, bear down, tighten up. And then that leaves so much pressure off of the offense. When the offense is having to outscore teams, I think this Tennessee offense is in trouble. Why? This Tennessee offense isn't built to put up 38 points a game. This Tennessee Titans offense is not built to have to come back from 4 touchdowns. Now, they do a good job at staying close and putting up points. That's not the point. The point is that this offense is built on a run-heavy, play-action pass. That is an offense that is not built to try and claw back from a 14-point deficit. That is a type of offense that is not built. You want to know why? Because in order to run play-action, you got to be able to run. You know, when you can't run, when you're down 14 touchdowns, you have to air it out. So the Tennessee Titans didn't miss a beat, it seemed like, with Derrick Henry. Now, you definitely missed Derrick Henry, the best player on the team. But Adrian Peterson did a great job. Foreman did a great job. They did enough to keep the offense in its same rhythm, in its same flow, which is the most important part. Keep your play action alive. But after watching the Rams game, I mean, the Titans have got to stay at number 2. They went on as impressive as a run as I have seen in recent memory. And one of those games against a lot of people's preseason favorites, my preseason favorite, the Rams, on the road with no Derrick Henry and still won that game. Ryan Tannehill did a great job. They put him in easy passing situations, which is always going to make him successful. The defense is finally getting pressure, and Mike Vrabel looks like he knows what he's doing. And I'm not bandwagon here, okay, because I was tempted to put them at number 1, but, I mean, let's be honest. The fair and balanced reporting is the Cardinals at number 1. Number 2, the Tennessee Titans. Number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, they're close. They're a close 3. They're finally getting healthy. Rob Gronkowski's on his way back, as far as we know, maybe in the next week or two. And I mean, this team, like I said, they're the only team to return all 22 starters since like 1987. And they're finally starting to catch their rhythm, get their Super Bowl winning legs back under them. And this is a team that when Leonard Fournette runs angry, when Tom Brady is on your team at any time, even if he's on the bench, you're going to be dangerous. Their defense and Devin White have finally looked like they've started to get their head back on their shoulders. I mean, once they got their mouse kicked in by the New Orleans Saints, and Tom Brady threw that interception, they came out with a vengeance, which is exactly what they needed to do. And I think the most important part is that Rob Gronkowski is coming back, because when Rob Gronkowski was in this lineup, their offense looked absolutely unstoppable. He's a Hall of Famer, arguably the greatest tight end ever. Taking somebody like that out of the lineup, even when you're replacing him with a pretty good O.J. Howard, it's still not the same thing. So, AB finally coming back from COVID. Chris Godwin's finally getting his legs underneath him. More importantly, Mike Evans is finally starting to get the touches that he well deserves. When Gronkowski comes back healthy, this offense will be right back in place, and then all they need is the defense to fall right back into place with where they were at the Super Bowl run. And, you know, we see this all the time. Teams that win the Super Bowl usually have a big drop-off. Why? Because you work all your life to achieve something, you achieve it, now it's a little bit of lackluster. But with Tom Brady at the helm, he's not going to let this team fall up and down. You know, and this is what bothers me so much is the second they lose, right? The second they lose a game and the Saints beat them and Tom Brady throws a touchdown, you morons, not saying you, all the listeners, you stupid sports media people come out and go, oh, Tom Brady's done. Tom Brady looks old. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers look human. Blah, 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 blah. The same crap that everybody was saying last year when they dropped a couple games in the middle of the year. They're going to be just fine. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be right there in the conference championship game at the end of the year, battling who knows who, probably the Green Bay Packers, in order to get to the Super Bowl. So, Bucs at number 3. At number 4, the team they're probably going to be facing, the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I'm not going to say Aaron Rodgers should go to jail, but what I'm saying is lock Aaron Rodgers up in the worst prison in America. Put him in the most lonely, deep, cold, wet chamber. I know that some of you were like, where are you going with this? Chamber at the bottom of the prison. And let him rot for lying to everybody. I know that's over-exaggerating, but Aaron Rodgers, can we just discuss this before I get into why they're at number 4 for me? Can we just discuss that the Green Bay Packers need to suspend Aaron Rodgers for at least a game? Can we just discuss that the NFL has a job to suspend Aaron Rodgers for at least 2 to 3 games? Can we just throw that out there? Who else can lie about being vaccinated and get away with it? Do you realize it is not mandatory to be vaccinated in the NFL? But it is mandatory that you can't do press conferences. It is mandatory that you have to keep your distance. It is mandatory that you have to get a certain amount of tests per day or per every other day. It is mandatory that you have to put a mask on. It is mandatory for a lot of different things. The NFL said, if you're not going to get vaccinated, we're going to make your life very difficult if you're not vaccinated. And Aaron Rodgers said, and I quote, "Yes, I have an immunity." So everybody thought, oh, that means you're vaccinated. You know what that's called? When you lead people on, letting them think that you are vaccinated? We call that a lie. And am I shocked that it's coming from Green Bay? No. Why would I be shocked that it's coming from Green Bay? Why? Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are a bunch of scumbags. What I meant to say was that's rude. I apologize. But what I'm saying is that Green Bay has no self-worth. They're pathetic, and I don't like Aaron Rodgers, and we should all agree, and we should sign petitions, and I'm not saying this from a Bears fan perspective, I'm saying this from a decent human being, that if you lie to the masses, if you lie to the nation and say you have an immunization, or whatever the frick he said, and his own doctor, by the way, that's been behind Aaron Rodgers for his basically like 15 years, is like, yeah, I'm done with Aaron, because he lied, which it's kind of your fault too. But can we all get behind the fact that Aaron Rodgers should be punished by the NFL? Because if this was done by anybody else, they are suspended without question. Just wanted to throw that one out there. Now, that being said, Green Bay is the fourth best team, in my personal opinion, in the NFL right now. Why? Because the simple fact that they have Aaron Rodgers, the lying scumbag that he is. We saw how bad they look with Jordan Love. You put Aaron Rodgers in there, it's almost automatic. And I'll throw this one out there as well. If OBJ ends up being a Green Bay Packer, it's a wrap. They will win the NFC and make it to the Super Bowl. See, I don't really honestly think that we give Aaron Rodgers enough credit for how good he is. He's a terrible person, yes. He can suck it as a person, absolutely. But he is a top 6 quarterback of all time. He is a transcendent thrower of the football, and he's right next to the young gun, Patrick Mahomes, with how big his arm is still, especially at his advanced age. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is that guy. And we thought all offseason, especially me, I thought that this big debacle with basically we're drafting your replacement, you're a scumbag, we don't want you, he complains, I want this person gone, blah, 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 blah. I thought that was going to take a much bigger toll than it has, and clearly they've just swept it under the rug. There's a verbal agreement that they're going to basically try and win the Super Bowl this year, and then he's gone no matter what next year. So, if that's the case, I mean, why not be all in? Why not put all the chips in the middle of the table and just say, I'm all in? And I think that's what, honestly, they're doing. I think that's what Matt LaFleur, I think that's what Aaron Rodgers are doing. They're just putting it in the middle and saying, hey, everybody give everything you have. Aaron Jones signs a big contract. I think they're just saying, hey, let's just give it everything we got and let's try and win this Super Bowl. Because at the end of the day, everybody's going to part ways very soon, sooner rather than later. So why not go all in? The Green Bay Packers are playing great football. Their defense is finally getting back on track. That big Rajay, well, I can't remember his name ever, but I know it's short and starts with an R and there's an A and there's a J in there somewhere. But I mean, that dude's a monster. He's like the Hakeem Hicks of Green Bay. And when you have, like I said, when you have Aaron Rodgers, that's honestly all you need. It's like having, I don't know, Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady's much, much better and brings actual Super Bowls, not just Super Bowl appearances or just NFC Championship appearances like Aaron Rodgers, but it's like having, just one of those transcendent guys, and he's good enough to drag this team all the way to an NFC Championship and possibly a Super Bowl. At number 5, give me the Los Angeles Rams. I don't know why. Like I said, we overreact in the sports media so often. They lose to the Tennessee Titans, who are a respectable team, by the way. I don't understand also why they get crapped on by the media and everybody just goes, well, the Rams weren't as good as we thought they were. It's like, no, maybe the Titans are a pretty good football team. Can we give the Titans some respect out there? Just saying. But The second the Rams lost, people had them drop back to like number 8 in the power rankings, number 9 in the power rankings. When I know of a lonely Kansas City Chiefs team who had 3 losses on the record and still were top 10 in the NFL. Like, it gets a little annoying when we go to such major extremes. The Los Angeles Rams are still the 5th best team in football as of today. As of today. Their appearance against the Tennessee Titans was definitely not formidable, and it definitely was a little bit embarrassing. But you're going to have those games. Especially with a Matthew Stafford type. Matthew Stafford is bound to have games like that. It's just his track record. He has games where he makes errant and dumb throws, like he did against the Tennessee Titans, where he was in the end zone, and if he would have just gone down, he would have had forward progress, been down at the 1. Instead, he spins, throws an interception. We all know how the rest of that went. And that was the big changing point in the whole game. But just because Matthew Stafford's going to have 1 or 2 of those games a year doesn't mean that the Los Angeles Rams are a bad football team. You still have Robert Woods. You still have Cooper Kupp, who is, as of right now, statistically the best wide receiver in the NFL. Just saying. You've got Tyler Higbee, a good tight end. You've got Darrell Henderson Jr., a very good running back. And by the way, Von Miller hasn't played a snap for you, and he's the 4th best defensive end probably in the NFL still. So you're about to get Von Miller. You have Aaron Donald. You have Jalen Ramsey, 2 elite talents. You have an elite offense that, yes, while at times it struggles, and a lot of that is due to Matthew Stafford's inexperience at the winning level, and experience at the high level. I truly believe that. I don't think it's because Matthew Stafford can't do it. I just don't think he's been put into situations where he can be successful, where he's had wide receivers that can get open for him, where he's got people that can run the football, where he's got a coach that can run smart plays. He's going to settle in. If you look at the success and failures of the Los Angeles Rams, I think a lot of it can be tracked down to when the ball is turned over by Matthew Stafford or by a running back. So once those get buttoned up, those things get buttoned up, they're going to be just fine. Yes, this team got embarrassed by the Tennessee Titans, but it was an amazing win from the Titans, and the Titans are a good football team. This team is built to go deep. The second Von Miller gets into that lineup, their defense is going to become the best, second best in the NFL, depending on how that Saints defense keeps playing. And, I mean, let's be honest, guys. Let's not overreact here. There's no reason to drop them back to number 8 or number 9. They're at number 5. At number 6, give me the Buffalo Bills. I mean, even though they lost to Jacksonville, they're still the Buffalo Bills. They're loaded. Josh Allen got sacked by Josh Allen. Josh Allen recovered a fumble on Josh Allen. Like, it was craziness. It was mayhem in Jacksonville. And it's kind of flashbacks to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's kind of the flashbacks to the Rams. Like, things happen. They're professional teams that they're playing against. Everybody thinks that just because it's a bad team on the other side, you should always kill that bad team. Not true. We see professional athletes against professional athletes. So don't think that that other team is made up of high schoolers. That other team can still play a good football game and can still sneak up on you and steal a game, a.k.a. the Jacksonville Jaguars this Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. That happens all the time. And then what do? Oh, Bills are one of the worst teams in football. Josh Allen's not who we thought he was. Okay. Can we stop being dumb for once? I feel like I've said it a lot, and it's not you, the listener, I promise you. It's the sports media, because when I research to do these podcasts, I know it's probably shocking. Some of you are like, you can read? I know, crazy. But no, when I'm researching for these podcasts, I look at the power rankings, and I look at it from CBS, from Fox, from all these other different outlets, and they're dumb. You can't keep Kansas City with 3 losses in the top 10, but then the Bills lose one game that, yes, it was a bad loss. Yes, it didn't look great. And then you drop them out of the top 10, or a lot of them have them at like 9 or 10. It's like, what? I'll take the Buffalo Bills in a playoff game right now over every single team that was in front of them on everybody else's list. I'll take them over the Baltimore Ravens. I'll take them over the Chargers. I'll take them over the New England Patriots. I mean, listen, they're starting to run the ball successfully. Josh Allen was the main reason they lost on Sunday. He just didn't play well. He had a bad game. It happens. It happens. Beep happens. You know what I'm saying. You know the thing. That's right. It's a Joe Biden reference. I can guarantee you I will be getting a message from somebody. Anyways, let's stop overreacting. The Bills still have a top 5 defense. They're running the ball at a successful rate. Josh Allen is still a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. If not top 8. Let's not get too crazy here and go, oh, Buffalo Bills are a bad football team. They had a bad loss. It's very reminiscent, like I said, of the Bucs last year. They have 2 or 3 bad losses and everybody goes, wow, they're one of the worst teams. Bucs win the Super Bowl. I feel very, very much like the Bills are that team this year. They have a couple bad losses and everybody just instantly loses their minds. And I wouldn't call the Tennessee Titans a bad loss because the Tennessee Titans are a good football team. But what I'm saying is that we overreact because it was a bad loss. We've seen a lot of bad losses. Hell, look at Green Bay at the beginning of the year. After their first game, when they went down in the crapper, everybody's just like, it's done, it's over. Aaron Rodgers should quit football. I knew this was going to be... listen, I was one of those people. I get that. Let's come back down to reality. The Buffalo Bills are still my favorites to come out of the AFC as of right now. If Derrick Henry is healthy by the playoffs, I would say the Titans are right there with them. But Bills-Titans are probably going to be your AFC championship game. Unless the Chiefs just magically show up and start becoming a good football team again, who else? Who else? Bills-Titans AFC Championship game as of right now. That's just what the standings say, if we're being honest. And can we trust Ryan Tannehill? That's going to be the big question moving forward. But off the Buffalo Bills because we got to move forward. And next up, give me, and this one was tough. Give me the Chargers. Now, I know there's teams with better records. I know for instance, you still have the Ravens, you still have the Cowboys, and they're coming shortly after this. But what I like about the Los Angeles Chargers, that the Los Angeles Chargers have firepower that I think can be dangerous to play with. You see, Justin Herbert put up a performance of a lifetime. He was like 30, his last game, he was 32 of 38. Over 358 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. What I love about Justin Herbert is that Justin Herbert is not afraid to have a bad game to then improve and be better the next game. Not a lot of young quarterbacks are willing to take the loss, and I think Justin Fields is very much that way in Chicago. He is willing to fail, and he's okay with failing in order to be better later. And that's what Justin Herbert brings to the table, which is very hard to teach young quarterbacks. And I just like the Los Angeles Chargers. In the way I look at my power rankings, yes, of course, records do matter. You can't be, whatever. You can't be 3-6 and then be like, oh, well, that's a great team. But what I look at my power rankings mainly based on is what teams do I think are the better teams in the NFL right now that I would trust. Basically, it's who would I trust in a playoff game, from 1 to 10. And for me, I would trust the Chargers in a playoff game right now over the Dallas Cowboys and over the Baltimore Ravens. Offensively, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, this offense is loaded. The offensive line is very, very good still. Even with all the injuries and retirements and trades. But they just do a good job at being one of those teams that is always dangerous. You see, for me, I do believe that Justin Herbert is an elite level quarterback already. So with that mindset in my head, with a defense that is an average to good defense based on the Sunday, could be a very good defense if they put it all together for once. With that backing up an offense that I believe in my mind truly, and it's not just because he's a former Oregon Duck, go Ducks, truly has an elite level quarterback in Justin Herbert and a smart-minded head coach, this team is very dangerous to play in a one-game winner-take-all. And if that's the case, that's why I've got to keep them up here. So, at number 7, give me the Chargers. At number 8, give me the Baltimore Ravens. I wanted to put the Dallas Cowboys there, but I also hate the Dallas Cowboys. But in all honesty, I hate the Dallas Cowboys. In actuality, though, being for real, I hate the Dallas Cowboys. But the Dallas Cowboys, in all honesty, are a pretty terrible team. Not really. They're a good team, but I hate the Dallas Cowboys. But this past Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys did something that was kind of egregious. They lost to the Denver Broncos, who are not a very good football team. They lost to the Denver Broncos, who don't have a really good quarterback. They lost to the Denver Broncos, who just lost their best defensive player in Von Miller. And their defense absolutely balled up against the Dallas Cowboys. But at number 8, we're not talking about Dallas, right? We're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens are always a dangerous team when you have an elite player like Lamar Jackson. My problem has always been with the Baltimore Ravens is I believe that they always have limitations and their defense can't catch a break with injuries whatsoever. I mean, it just seems like every Sunday we're carting off a new Baltimore Ravens player to only hear that their season's over with. I mean, hell, isn't their entire backfield made up of free agents? Devontae Freeman, I know they got Latavius Murray, I know they've got Le'Veon Bell. Like basically all of their entire starters, J.K. Dobbins gone, Mark Ingram traded. They're just like, all right, well, let's just make this up as we go along. And while Lamar Jackson has been good enough, they can't stay healthy enough on defense in order to make the impact that they need to. One thing we always know about Baltimore is they are one of the most resilient, tough teams to play, and we've not seen that type of attitude. And I don't know if that's a lack of those kind of guys being on the field due to injury, or if the mindset's starting to shift to a flashy, high-powered offense with our defense starting to soften up. And the problem is if you had a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, if you had a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, name a big-time thrower of the football, you could flip-flop those. You could have a much more high-powered, crazy offense that could put up a lot of points throughout the air and on the ground, like those guys, and have an average defense. But the problem is the Baltimore Ravens have a offense that isn't high-powered throughout the air. It's high-powered on the ground, and they have a defense that is not resilient, which is a recipe for a first-round exit in the playoffs. A hard first-round matchup against whoever, the Buffalo Bills, the Tennessee Titans. Insert good team here. The Baltimore Ravens they're very unlucky. Like, I'll throw that one out there. Everybody gets injured for this team. Everybody. If they're fully healthy, they're probably sitting third in the AFC right now. But they can't stay healthy enough, in my personal opinion, to make a deep playoff run and a Super Bowl push. They just don't have those weapons. You're not going to get by with Devontae Freeman. You're not going to get by with Latavius Murray and Le'Veon Bell. And when you have a quarterback that is limited throughout the air, and I truly think he's a limited quarterback throughout the air, although he's gotten a lot better, that I will admit. We're starting to see Hollywood Brown come into his own. Bateman's finally coming around, getting healthy, being active for them. But, the addition of Sammy Watkins was a big one too. That was a very big pickup for this offense. And we're seeing a much better thrower of the football in Lamar Jackson. But do we have a Lamar Jackson that can rely solely on his arm? I don't believe so. Too much inconsistency from the Baltimore Ravens, a defense that isn't tough-nosed enough for my liking. That's why they fall all the way back here at 8. At number 9, we've already talked about them, the crappy Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys showed you exactly who they were on Sunday. They're a good team to a bad team. They are one of the most inconsistent teams in football. Their offensive line, still one of the best in the NFL, giving up sacks all the time now. Dak Prescott just doesn't look like Dak Prescott right now. He's had his moments. There's been moments where I'm like, man, Dak Prescott's finally back. It's good to see him. And listen, I don't wish any ill will on Dak Prescott or the Dallas Cowboys, in all honesty. I could care little, so little. They're in the worst division in football anyways. But Dak Prescott looks like he's favoring that ankle still. It looks like he doesn't trust it just enough. He's overthrowing his wide receivers, and a lot of it is off the back foot, just trying to launch the ball with all arm, and now you're inaccurate. He's not stepping through those throws, and I personally believe that's because of the ankle. And now we know that he has a shoulder injury. He's strained his quad or his calf. Like, he's just coming down with something every single week now. Are we seeing Dak Prescott be one of those quarterbacks that is going to be knick-knacked all season long like Carson Wentz is? Is this the start of Dak Prescott going to the blue tent twice a game? It's starting to scare me because we're seeing a great Dak Prescott to a bad Dak Prescott. Usually quarterbacks don't have those up and downs unless they are a rookie or unless they're a player like Baker Mayfield, who will have one great game, one terrible game, one great game, one terrible game. And do you know what we call that in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen? A future backup quarterback. I mean, Rush looked like Tom Brady out there. And then Sunday, Dak Prescott comes in, and it looks like he took 5 steps back in the off week from his injury. Offensive line, supposed to be the best in the NFL, can't protect. I mean, they couldn't protect. If you were getting bum rushed by Girl Scouts, they couldn't protect you. They're about as much protection as our southern border wall. Ha ha! Dude, some people are going to get pissed because of that, and that makes me laugh. But, let's be honest. Their defense is who we thought they were. An average defense with one great player in Diggs, who now has gotten so confident and so cocky that he's now getting blown by it and blowing up different routes. I mean, I watched him literally lose sight of his man and get beat for a touchdown on Sunday because Trayvon Diggs is now trying to be, I guess it's an overconfidence issue because he's now thinking that he doesn't have to play traditional cornerback. He's just going to fly around like Ed Reed, boy, like big old Ed Reed and just steal whatever he wants. That ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. Like, you're still a young dude. You're still a rook. Like, can you keep your head on your shoulders? How about get a coach in his ear and say, hey, bud, I know that you're having a good season, but you still need to play traditional cornerback. You still need to stay home at your base. You can't just run all around just because you had a couple picks and think that you're Jalen Ramsey now. Not going to happen. Mike McCarthy's also a waste of a headset and a hat. He is a waste of a headset and a hat. One of the worst clock managers I've ever seen. One of the worst coaches I've ever seen. And now we know why he was a good coach. Well, he had Aaron Rodgers in his prime years in Green Bay. That's why he has a Super Bowl on his resume. Let's be honest about that. I got a message from a Dallas Cowboys fan on, I want to say TikTok. Maybe TikTok, Twitter. And they pissed, by the way, because they said that all I do is crap on the Dallas Cowboys. And I said, which is true. I can't stand the Dallas Cowboys just as much as I hate Green Bay. And they said that Mike McCarthy was a top 5 coach in the NFL. To which I replied, do you wear a helmet to bed? Was that nice? No. This is a friendly podcast. I'm a friendly guy. This is a family show. I shouldn't have said it. I'm apologizing on air now. Okay? I'm sorry. It was an honest question, though. Honest question. He's not a top 5. For those of you who don't know football that well, he's not top 15 in the NFL, just saying. What are there, 32 teams, 33 teams in the NFL? 32 teams, I can't remember. He's whatever is after how many teams are in the NFL. If there's 32 teams, he's number 33. If there's 33 teams, he's number 34. Okay? But I don't trust coaching. I don't trust defense. I can't trust the offensive line. Dak Prescott has shown me flashes of brilliance and shown me flashes of terribleness. He's the single reason why they were terrible on Sunday. Could not deliver an accurate football. And I saw a lot of flinching. I saw a lot of inconsistency in his footwork. And I don't know if that ankle injury is still lingering or if he's worried that he's going to injure it again. But there's a lot of demons going on, I think, in the Dallas Cowboys heads and locker rooms, and Jerry Jones isn't a happy man, and neither are Dallas Cowboys fans. They're at number 9. At number 10, the Browns. So I wanted to put the Browns at 11 and put the New England Patriots up at 10 to round out my top 10, but then the Browns came out and put up that massive smackdown on Sunday. What was it? 41-16 win over the Bengals, who are a very good team, by the way. The Bengals are a very good offense and a good team. And the Browns made the Bengals look like fools. Now Joe Burrow had a rough day. Let's still keep in our minds that Joe Burrow is still a sophomore quarterback. I know we'd like to think that he's a 5-year veteran, but he's not. So he's still going to have his struggles. He had a pick 6, just was not having a very good day, not placing the ball in the right spot. Offensive line couldn't block, and they got down so early that he had to try and toss the ball 40 times to win the football game, which is never good unless you're Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or Justin Herbert. But that's a quality win for the Browns, especially after the whole Odell Beckham Jr. debacle that just went down. Odell Beckham Jr. went on his smear campaign. Well, his father did, basically trashing Baker Mayfield. And I don't think Baker Mayfield's that good of a quarterback, but, I mean, come on. From what I'm hearing, Odell Beckham Jr. is one of the biggest reasons that locker room was as big of a crap show as it was. And this is now the second team in a row that has blamed Odell Beckham Jr., by the way. So Can we come to an agreement that it might be a little bit, sort of, kind of Odell Beckham Jr.'s fault that everybody thinks he's an enormous prick? Even the goal, the practice kicking goal thing, you know what I'm talking about? When he kicked the kicker's practice net and it hit him in the face. Like, even that thing, it was just like, yeah, he's kind of a dick. But what does it say that about Odell Beckham Jr. that an entire franchise in New York, an entire franchise in Cleveland, they're just like, we're done. Clearly, he made life miserable for Baker Mayfield. He made life miserable for the Giants. He makes life miserable for his team. I mean, some have literally called him a cancer. And what that might do to a young quarterback like Baker Mayfield, it could make him play bad. And I know that sounds silly, but I'm studying the sports science and the psychology behind athletes. And guess what? When your star wide receiver is doing nothing but trashing you and, you know, basically calling you out in the media, and then his family's posting videos about you, that's going to mess with you. Excuse me. That can make you play bad football. So once Odell Beckham Jr. left the building, I fully expected Baker Mayfield to have a good game. I expected him to come out, put up the numbers that he did. I didn't expect this big of a blowout, though. And a big portion of that is that the defense, they've spent millions on their defense, and their defense hasn't lived up to its potential. Now, like I said, I don't know if that was a locker room issue. I don't know if that was just a health issue. But Myles Garrett and that defense got after it on Sunday. And when they have a defense that is that good, that you've spent that much money on, when Baker Mayfield has a running back tandem in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, he doesn't have to do much. You see, when you have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, the last thing you want to do is have to make Baker Mayfield throw the ball 45 times a game in order for you to win. What you want to do is put him in a successful position. What is that? Have a power running game with two top-notch running backs, run off the play action, let him throw short, accurate passes, which is what he's very good at, and sometimes air out the deep ball to keep things interesting. And guess what? The Browns can win football games 21-14 all day long if their defense plays that way and they can control the football with their running game. That's all they've got to do. It doesn't have to be magic, doesn't have to be special. And once Odell Beckham Jr. got out of there, I think we saw some sort of clarity from Baker Mayfield. He's not having to argue, do I have to get him the ball 5 times a game, 6 times a game? Because that can mess with a player's repertoire. That can mess with a quarterback's decision-making. So they got that distraction out of the way. Now we have Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr. That tandem's gone. Now he can focus on Jarvis Landry. He can focus on the tight end Hooper and everybody else, right? Now they've got an offense that has an identity, which is power running football, not having to give the ball to Odell Beckham Jr. 45 times a game in order for him to be happy, not having to worry about him, and a defense that is top 5 in the NFL if they can get their crap together. Listen, if I spend millions and millions of dollars on you and my return is you're giving up the 5th most points in the NFL, guess what? I'm not a happy man. So they finally snapped it into gear. They beat a good Bengals team with a very solid offense, and I had to put the Browns at 10. Sorry, New England Patriots, another team that I also hate, but I couldn't slide you up there, so the Browns remain at 10, but there it is. This full show was my NFL Power Rankings. I just had so much to say about the NFL, and I know usually we talk about other subjects. UFC 268, by the way, was phenomenal. Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje put on a show. Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington put on a show. Rose Namajunas, I don't know how to say her last name, and Zaweli Chung, they were awesome. I also don't know how to say her name, but the fight card was awesome. So another amazing event from the UFC. Congratulations to Canelo. I watched that Canelo fight, and listen, I've never watched a Canelo fight, but that dude, I mean, he's fighting a guy that everybody's saying is the next best thing in the division, and it hit the 11th round, and he's just like, nah, I'm going to knock you out now. It was kind of like he was playing around with him. It reminds me of Tyson Fury, like somebody just messing around, just being like, listen, I can beat you at any point. Let's put on a show for the fans, and then I'll knock you out in the 11th round, which is what he did. So congratulations to Canelo. Thank you, Locker Room Faithful. Thank you, brand new listeners to the Locker Room. If you'd like to be a part of the Locker Room Faithful, it's simple. Follow us on our social media, TLR Podcast 615. Please, please, please follow us and interact. Follow us and interact. Follow us and interact. Follow us and interact. It means so much for this program if you all can follow the social media, especially the Instagram, and interact with me on the daily, because that pushes this out to more and more people. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Locker Room Faithful. Thank you, brand new guests. Once again, everybody. Oh, also, before I go, I wanted to say, That's Life premieres November 17th. November 17th, That's Life, my other brand new podcast. So if you like me, and you're not a big sports fan, check that out. First episode is called Letter to Taco Bell, and that is exactly what it is. I wrote a letter to Taco Bell telling them how upset and disgusted I was that they removed the Chipotle Chicken Griller. It's a really fun story, so make sure you watch. You're staying tuned for the debut of That's Life. Once again, everybody, I'm Jacob Courtwright. This is The Locker Room.